Imagine a nation torn in two, where brother fought against brother and fathers against sons. This wasn't some distant fantasy. This was the American Civil War, one of the most brutal and defining chapters in United States history. But how did it all begin? What pushed a country to the brink of self-destruction? Stick our wound, because we're about to unravel the complex story of the American Civil War in just 3 minutes. It all boils down to one word: slavery. By the mid-19th century, the United States was deeply divided. The industrial North, with its factories and growing cities, had largely abolished slavery. In contrast, the agricultural South, with its vast cotton and tobacco plantations, was economically dependent on the labor of millions of enslaved African Americans. This fundamental difference created a massive economic and moral rift. Tensions had been simmering for decades. Events like the Missouri Compromise and the Kansas-Nebraska Act were like putting temporary patches on a problem that was about to explode. These were political attempts to balance the number of free states and slave states as the nation expanded westward. But every new territory became a battleground for this debate. The abolitionist movement in the North grew stronger, demanding an end to what they saw as a grave injustice, while Southerners fiercely defended their way of life and what they called their property rights. The breaking point came in 1860. With the election of Abraham Lincoln as president, Lincoln and his new Republican Party were against the expansion of slavery into the new territories. For the Southern states, this was the final straw. They feared Lincoln would eventually abolish slavery altogether, destroying their economy and social structure. So, one by one, 11 Southern states seceded or broke Hawaii from the United States to form their own country, the Confederate States of America. Lincoln declared this act of secession illegal and was determined to preserve the Union. The stage was set for war. On April 12, 1861, Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter, a U.S. federal fort in Charleston, South Carolina. The Civil War had begun. The North, known as the Union, had more people, more factories, and a better railway system. The South, or the Confederacy, had brilliant military leaders like Robert E. Lee and the advantage of fighting a defensive war on their own soil. The war raged for 4 long, bloody years. Battles like Antietam, Gettysburg, and Vicksburg resulted in staggering casualties. Unlike anything the country had ever seen, families were literally torn apart. It was common for a soldier from Kentucky or Missouri to have a brother or a cousin fighting on the opposing side. The war wasn't just a political conflict. It was a deeply personal and tragic family feud played out on a national scale. A major turning point came on January 1, 1863, when President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. This declared that all enslaved people in the rebellious Confederate States were to be freed. While it didn't free everyone overnight, it fundamentally changed the purpose of the war. It was no longer just about preserving the Union. It was now a fight for human freedom. This also allowed nearly 200,000 African American men to enlist in the Union Army and Navy, fighting bravely for their own liberation. By 1864, the Union's advantages in resources and manpower began to overwhelm the Confederacy. General Ulysses S. Grant led a relentless campaign, while General William Tecumseh Sherman marched through Georgia, crippling the South's ability to wage war. Finally, on April 9, 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. The war was over. The American Civil War was the deadliest conflict in American history, with over 620,000 soldiers losing their lives. Its aftermath brought about the end of slavery with the 13th Amendment, but the road to true equality and healing the nation's wounds would be long and difficult. It was a brutal, heartbreaking war that ultimately reforged the United States into a single, indivisible nation, forever changing the meaning of freedom and citizenship. And that's the American Civil War in a nutshell. A powerful reminder of how deep divisions can tear a country apart. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button, share it with a friend, and let me know in the comments what piece of history you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more History Explained.
If you love uncovering the truth, don't forget to subscribe. More hidden history is coming every week, only on History Uncovered.